For years, the bar and shield on the tank settled every argument. If it said Harley Davidson, that was the end of the discussion. But the highway doesn't care about logos, and age has a way of changing what really matters. When your hands ache after an hour, your hips complain at every stop, and the next repair bill looks like a month of retirement income, that badge means a little less. Royal Enfield has quietly answered with something old school. Straightforward motorcycles. No giant screens, no 15 ride modes, just modest engines, real torque, and prices that leave money for fuel and tires. In this video, we'll look at 7 Royal Enfield models that can honestly replace a Harley Davidson without losing the feeling of being a real rider. Stick with me to the end, because one of these Enfields does a classic Harley job better than Harley does it today, and it's probably not the one you think. Number 7. Continental GT 650. There is a kind of presence that announces itself without a badge, shouting for attention. It sits compact and purposeful in a row of larger machines. Older riders will give it a quick nod, the way they approve a well-kept tool. The GT 650 carries that restrained confidence. It looks like a bike that prefers corners over bluster. Ride position is intentionally forward without being cruel. Hands rest close and low, while feet find mid-controls. The posture invites measured inputs rather than theatrical reach. On sweeping 2-lane roads, the chassis feels planted and composed. That sort of predictability is a merciful trait after long years of highway miles and heavy machines. The motor feels like a conversation rather than an argument. Throttle responses are honest and linear through the mid-range. It rewards steady hands and patient openings. For riders used to air-cooled V-twins, the twins' pulse provides a different kind of companionship. It is not louder for effect. It speaks in a tidy tone that suits long mornings in the saddle. Build and serviceability are practical virtues on this platform. Panels align with sensible tolerances, and visible fasteners invite basic adjustments. Bolts and brackets are reachable with common tools. A rider who prefers wrench time over dealer visits will respect the accessible layout. The platform accepts performance and aesthetic changes without defensive engineering. Styling matters to veterans who remember badges and factory flair. The bench seat and sweeping tank deliver a cafe silhouette without theatrical angles. Brushed metal details and exposed twin cylinders create a workmanlike elegance. The aftermarket for cafe parts is active, and the platform makes clip-ons and rear sets a logical swap. That allows personalization without sacrificing factory simplicity. Long-distance capability is not the GT 650's declared mission, yet it can handle sensible overnight touring. Fitted with moderate luggage and a calm pace, it keeps steady progress. Fuel stops present no surprises on familiar routes. Service intervals and parts lists avoid opaque corporate language. For ownership that values clarity, the bike's simplicity outperforms needless gadgetry. Here is the compact technical listing for editors and animators. Horsepower is 37.2 horsepower. Engine size is 647 cubic centimeters. Pound-feet of torque is 37.1 pound-feet. Braking system is dual front disc with 4-piston calipers and single rear disc. Suspension setup is telescopic front forks and twin rear shocks with adjustable preload. Wet weight is 421 pounds. Seat height is 31.1 inches. Starting price is $6,499. A bike follows that trade's cafe posture for 2-up practicality and steady torque. Number 6. Interceptor 650. Some motorcycles feel like they were built for brochures. Others feel like they were built for the long way home. The Interceptor falls squarely into that second camp. It does not scream for attention. It just offers a long, steady handshake and waits for you to roll on the miles. Swing a leg over, and the first impression is balance. The bars meet your hands without a stretch. The pegs sit in a natural position that respects aging knees and worn hips. You're upright, not folded, with a clear view of the road and enough leverage to guide the bike without wrestling. Out on a 2-lane highway, the Interceptor settles into a calm rhythm. The parallel twin beats a steady pulse through the frame. It does not chase redline spectacle. It carries its strength in the middle of the rev range, where real riding lives. Roll on from mid-speed, and it responds with a clean, honest surge rather than drama. For riders who have spent decades behind big fairings and heavy windshields, the simpler layout feels refreshing. You get clean air, a clear dash, and just enough protection from a small screen if you choose to add one. The chassis feels lighter than a full touring rig, yet solid enough that crosswinds do not bully it offline. Two up, the Interceptor proves its purpose. The seat is long enough for a passenger without crowding the rider. Suspension can cope with real-world weight, especially once sag is set for your combined load. A set of soft bags or hard panniers turns it into a modest tourer that still fits in a small garage. The mechanical layout is friendly for those who still wrench on weekends. Oil changes and basic checks are accessible. No sea of plastic stands between you and the parts that matter. That matters to a rider who remembers adjusting a chain at a roadside pullout instead of making a dealership appointment for every small thing. On back roads, the Interceptor finds a sweet spot between stability and agility. It tips into corners with a steady, predictable motion. Mid-corner bumps do not throw it into panic. Older riders who have seen too many overpowered machines try to pretend they are race bikes will appreciate that this one aims for composure instead of chaos. For a rider who wants a simple, honest machine with enough performance to stay ahead of traffic and enough comfort to handle real miles, the Interceptor makes its case without theatrics. Horsepower is 47 horsepower. Engine size is 647 cubic centimeters. Pound-feet of torque is 38.3 pound-feet. Braking system is dual front disc and single rear disc with anti-lock braking system. Suspension setup is telescopic front forks and twin rear shocks with adjustable preload. Wet weight is 445 pounds. Seat height is 30.7 inches. Starting price is $6,149. A machine built for cafe-style pride has its place. Yet the balanced feel here points directly toward a truly capable adventure single that trades polish for pure distance grit. If you value straight talk about real-world torque, comfort, and long-term ownership, hit like so more riders see it, subscribe for deeper breakdowns, and tell us in the comments which Harley you think these Enfields are truly replacing out there. Number 5. Himalayan 411. There comes a point in a rider's life when the map matters more than the chrome. You stop caring about how the parking lot looks and start thinking about where the gravel road in the distance might actually go. That is where the Himalayan earns respect from riders who once swore they would never leave the asphalt. Climb on, and the first thing you notice is how easy it is to reach the ground. The seat is narrow where it counts, low enough that aging knees do not have to argue with the bike every time you stop for fuel or a photo. The bars are wide and steady, sitting right where a long-time rider expects them to be, with no circus stretch and no cramped hunch. The motor does not brag, yet it works. Power builds smoothly from the bottom, carrying the bike up to country road speeds without strain. It does not pretend to be a sport machine. It is a mule with manners. For riders used to big V-twins, the single-cylinder thump feels familiar in spirit, if not in layout. It gives a steady heartbeat instead of a scream. Suspension is where the Himalayan quietly separates itself from low-riding cruisers. The travel is generous enough to soak up broken pavement, railroad crossings, and surprise potholes without turning your spine into the shock absorber. When the asphalt ends and a gravel stretch starts, the bike simply keeps going without drama. That alone opens up whole counties of back roads that a heavy touring rig would avoid. The chassis is built with luggage and real gear in mind. Factory racks, crash bars, and flat mounting points invite soft bags, hard cases, and tool rolls. This is not a machine that panics at the thought of a 30-pound duffel lashed to the back. Riders who have done their own wrenching for decades will nod at how easy it is to reach the oil drain, the filter, and the chain. Highway work is honest rather than glamorous. Cruising in the middle of the speed range, the Himalayan will hold pace with traffic without feeling strained. Wind protection is simple, but useful. With a small screen, taking the worst of the blast off your chest. Long days become a matter of patience, not punishment. Fuel range is respectable enough that you can skip a station now and then. For riders wanting a simple machine that can leave the highway, carry camping gear, and be serviced with a basic kit on the side of the road, the Himalayan brings a kind of honest utility. Horsepower is 24.3 horsepower. Engine size is 411 cubic centimeters. Pound-feet of torque is 23.6 pound-feet. Braking system is single front disc and single rear disc with anti-lock braking system. Suspension setup is telescopic front forks with long travel and monoshock rear suspension. Wet weight is 421 pounds. Seat height is 31.5 inches. Starting price is $5,499. Beyond the gravel and the high passes, attention turns toward a leaner street machine that keeps some of that rugged attitude, while slipping easily through city traffic and rough back alleys. Number 4. Scram 411. Some motorcycles feel happiest when they are dirty, dented, and still running strong. The Scram fits that mold better than most polished showroom queens. It is built for riders who do not wince at gravel pinging off the frame and do not mind a little dust settling on the tank after a long day. Swinging a leg over, the bike immediately signals that it was designed for real streets, not just brochures. The seat is narrow and manageable, letting a rider step down with confidence, even on uneven pavement or broken shoulders. Bars sit higher than on standard street machines, putting your shoulders in a natural stance for low-speed control. On tight city blocks and rough alleys, the Scram comes alive. The steering feels light without getting twitchy. Potholes and patched asphalt do not threaten your back the way they can on low-slung cruisers with short travel. You sit high enough to read the traffic ahead and pick escape lines through gaps. For older riders who have spent years muscling heavy touring rigs, that agility feels like dropping a full toolbox in favor of a well-chosen handful of wrenches. The bike still has enough weight to feel planted, yet you do not dread pushing it around the garage or backing it out of a tight parking spot. The single-cylinder thump has a workmanlike quality. It does not chase high-rev drama. It gives you steady pull off the line and enough mid-range to keep in front of impatient traffic. For riders used to big V-twins, the feel is different, yet the intent is familiar. It moves with purpose, not panic. One of the Scram's quiet strengths is how little it demands from its owner. Bodywork is simple. Crash damage at low speed is more of an inconvenience than a financial disaster. For older riders on fixed incomes or just tired of high parts prices, that simplicity matters. You can live with this bike in the real world. Short sightseeing runs on country roads suit it well. While it is not a mile-eating tourer, it handles stretches of highway without fear. The upright seating lets you shift weight easily as pavement changes. A tank bag and small rear pack give room for tools, rain gear, and a spare layer without turning the bike into a rolling wardrobe. It is a machine for those who still enjoy slipping down an unknown side road just to see where it leads, without worrying whether the surface will stay perfect all the way there and back. Horsepower is 24.3 horsepower. Engine size is 411 cubic centimeters. Pound-feet of torque is 23.6 pound-feet. Braking system is single front disc and single rear disc with anti-lock braking system. Suspension setup is telescopic long travel front forks and rear monoshock suspension. Wet weight is 407 pounds. Seat height is 31.3 inches. Starting price is $5,099. Thought begins to shift from rough-cut streets and dirt lanes toward a motorcycle that wears classic lines and old-world charm while still being manageable for aging joints and long, steady afternoons. If you want more no-nonsense comparisons that respect the miles you have already ridden, hit subscribe and stay with us as we keep pulling back the curtain on where real riders still get the best value for their hard-earned money. Number 3. Classic 350. Some lines never go out of style. A curved tank, a simple fender, a round headlight shining into the dark morning before the sun comes up. The Classic leans hard into that feeling, the same way an old leather jacket does when you pull it on, years of honest miles. Settling into the saddle, you do not feel like you are climbing onto a machine designed by a committee. The seat sits at a height that respects aging hips and knees. Getting on and off never feels like a gym exercise. The bars rise to meet your hands without a stretch. Your spine stays nearly straight, your shoulders relaxed, your feet resting under you instead of reaching forward or bunching back. Fire the single cylinder, and the bike answers with a steady, contained thump. It is not a noisy bark or a strained whine. It sounds like an honest piece of machinery doing what it was built to do. Vibration is present, yet refined enough not to numb your fingers. For riders raised on big air-cooled V-twins, that sense of mechanical heartbeat will feel familiar, even if the layout is different. Once the Classic rolls through town, its pace suits the scenery. It does not push you to rush. It lets a rider enjoy storefronts, tree lines, and side streets at a measured speed. The clutch pull is moderate. Gear changes are clean instead of clunky. That matters for riders whose left hand and ankle have already shifted through more boxes than they care to count. Out on a relaxed two-lane, the story holds. The bike carries a steady pace between small towns, letting you enjoy the space between gas stops. Wind hits clean, with no massive fairing trying to fold you backward, and no high buffeting that rattles your helmet. Short trips to a favorite diner or out to a country overlook become less about arrival and more about the ride itself. Visually, the Classic speaks to riders who still admire metal more than plastic. The tank carries simple pinstripes. Side covers wear badges that look like they were drawn by someone who understood restraint. The fenders are full and honest, instead of slashed to follow the latest trend. That dignity shows up in parking lots, where older riders take a second look and nod. The Classic is most at home with riders who want an easy-going partner. Something to fire up on a clear evening just to roll through familiar streets and remember how it felt in earlier decades. Horsepower is 20.2 horsepower. Engine size is 349 cubic centimeters. Pound-feet of torque is 19.9 pound-feet. Braking system is single front disc and single rear disc with anti-lock braking system. Suspension setup is telescopic front forks and twin rear shocks. Wet weight is 423 pounds. Seat height is 30.7 inches. Starting price is $4,699. Thoughts for riders focused on pure value and tight city lines gradually drift toward a leaner machine that keeps the same heart, but adds a little more edge for crowded streets and quick lane changes. Number 2, Hunter 350. Some motorcycles feel like they were built to cut through city noise, the way a good knife cuts rope. The Hunter has that attitude. Compact, straightforward, and ready to work, it aims at riders who want a lighter machine for real streets, without giving up the dignity that comes with years of bigger iron. Throwing a leg over, the first impression is how easy it is to get settled. The seat is low enough that shorter inseams or tired knees do not have to struggle. You sit slightly forward, yet not hunched. Bars fall right into your hands, close enough for tight turns and quick corrections, far enough that your shoulders stay relaxed while you watch traffic. Rolling away from the curb, the Hunter feels light in a way heavy cruisers simply cannot. Low-speed balance is friendly. U-turns, parking maneuvers, and slow crawl situations stop feeling like chores. That alone makes it a smart partner for riders who still enjoy being on two wheels, but are starting to feel every pound of a full dresser. In city traffic, the single cylinder pulls with enough authority to slip into gaps without drama. It is not trying to impress anyone with top speed. Instead, it gives solid bottom and mid-range torque that suits stoplight to stoplight reality. The motor speaks in a firm, contained voice, not a screaming whine. Suspension is set up for rough pavement more than smooth highways. Potholes, expansion joints, and patched surfaces are handled with calm, not complaints. You stay in control rather than bracing for every hit. For aging backs and shoulders, that makes a difference at the end of the day. Brakes offer sensible control. Lever feel is predictable, with enough bite to handle panic stops, without turning the front end into a guessing game. In wet weather or dirty intersections, the safety net of a modern anti-lock braking system adds quiet confidence. Older riders who have seen their share of surprise stops can appreciate that advantage. Ergonomics make short to medium rides comfortable. A run across town, a commute, or a loop of favorite backstreets all fall well within the hunter's comfort zone. You can lean forward slightly when you want to push, then sit more upright when the pace settles. The bike respects the fact that some riders have stiff joints and limited patience for contorted postures. Looks are clean with a hint of muscle. The tank is compact, but shaped with intent. The tail is trimmed without looking chopped to pieces. Wheels and stance give it a purposeful, almost muscular profile for its size. That matters more than many will admit. A rider who has spent decades on big twins still wants to look at the machine with a measure of pride. For riders wanting a nimble partner that can dart through city streets, slip into tight parking, and still have the manners for an afternoon run beyond town, the Hunter makes a strong case as a second bike or even a primary ride in crowded areas. Horsepower is 20.2 horsepower. Engine size is 349 cubic centimeters. Pound-feet of torque is 19.9 pound-feet. Braking system is single front disc and single rear disc with anti-lock braking system. Suspension setup is telescopic front forks and twin rear shocks. Wet weight is 393 pounds. Seat height is 31.1 inches. Starting price is $4,099. Attention finally settles on a more relaxed machine that stretches that same engine into a true small displacement cruiser, built for unhurried evenings, long views, and steady miles without strain. Number 1. Meteor 350. There is a certain kind of evening that calls for a slower motorcycle. The sky is turning gold over the fields, the traffic has thinned, and the road is familiar enough that you could ride it with your eyes closed, though you never would. The Meteor is built for those evenings. Drop into the saddle, and the first surprise is how natural everything feels. Seat height is low without being cramped, letting shorter inseams and older knees settle in without complaint. Your feet fall to mid-mounted pegs that do not stretch you out like a display mannequin or fold you up like a track rider. Handlebars sweep back just enough to bring your hands to a relaxed bend. There is no struggle to reach, no need to lean hard toward the tank. Spine, shoulders, and wrists line up in a way that respects joints that have already done their share of hard work in life. You do not feel forced into a boy racer pose or locked into a recliner. Thumb the starter, and the single wakes up with a steady, modest beat. It is not trying to announce itself 3 blocks away. Instead, it feels like a calm but willing partner. Throttle response is smooth, not jumpy. Around town, that matters. You can feed and power cleanly without upsetting the chassis or your passenger. Out on a back road, the Meteor finds its purpose. It is not chasing big speed. It settles into a steady cruising pace that lets you look around, breathe, and think. Roll on from low to middle revs, and the bike answers with a deliberate push rather than a frantic rush. Older riders who have come to value control over spectacle will understand that immediately. Ride quality leans toward comfort. Suspension tuning is aimed at soaking up the real world. Broken pavement, bridge joints, and mild potholes are softened before they reach your spine. The bike carries its weight low, so slow speed stability is calm rather than clumsy. That makes fuel stops, parking lots, and tight turnarounds much easier on aging legs. The seat deserves special mention. It is broad enough to actually support you, with padding that feels more like an old touring saddle than a thin pad from a fashion bike. You can sit for real stretches of time without fidgeting, sliding, or hunting for a sweet spot. Add a passenger, and the rear perch still offers reasonable space. For riders who want a calm, honest cruiser that will carry them across town, along the river, or even across a state line at a measured pace, the Meteor offers a sensible blend of comfort, simplicity, and pride. Horsepower is 20.2 horsepower. Engine size is 349 cubic centimeters. Pound-feet of torque is 19.9 pound-feet. Braking system is single front disc and rear drum brake with anti-lock braking system. Suspension setup is telescopic front forks and twin rear shocks. Wet weight is 421 pounds. Seat height is 30.1 inches. Starting price is $4,699. When the side stand comes down at the end of a long day on a bike like this, a rider who has known heavy touring rigs and temperamental engines can feel something rare in today's market. A sense that comfort, character, and common sense have finally met in one steady machine. If one of these 7 Royal Enfields made you rethink what you ride next, hit like, subscribe for more straight talk breakdowns, and drop a comment telling me what Harley you're on now and which Enfield you'd honestly test ride tomorrow.